All right, hi everybody. This is Dan Slangen. I'm going to talk to you today, kind of walk you through some of the considerations you might have for a cyber training for your e-organization, choco-lata. So this is a basic cybersecurity crash course, if you will. Look, we'll start with an agenda. We're going to just give a short introduction of the IT department and talk about us a little bit. And then we'll talk about some general safe practices for cybersecurity. We'll talk about password security, some of the email concerns, and physical security for your devices. And then there'll be a chance, typically at the end in-person trainings, you'd want to have a spot for any questions that the audience might have. All right, so just to introduce yourself, again, I'm Dan Slangen. We have a team of about 14 people in our course, and we're all working really hard on cybersecurity. We have a really robust trouble ticket system for the organization, and I think that's important to highlight for your users so that they know what to do if they have any problems, and it kind of helps ensure that your processes are running normal. We have a spam email address where if users, we have really robust spam filters software, and if spam does make it through it, we want to have a spot for our users to be able to forward that spam so we can add it to the filters and kind of investigate how it got through. And then just a reminder to everyone in the organization where all of our policies dealing with IT security can be located, typically on the intranet site. All right, so general safe practices. If your organization has a bring your own device policy, BYOD, it's important to ensure that those devices, that users are really aware that they're keeping up with antivirus, firewall, or any other intrusion detection system on their system, and that they're keeping their operating systems up to date. One of the things we like to encourage when we're looking at password security is to use a password manager. There's a lot of differing thoughts on this. Some people are increasingly starting to say that a physical manifestation of your passwords, like a piece of paper you keep in your wallet, would be more beneficial than a password manager. But we think password managers are a pretty safe bet for the most part, as long as you're going with a reputable organization. And some of them even allow a localized copy, so it doesn't have to necessarily be stored on the password manager server. The big thing really is that you're not reusing passwords, and that you're using strong passwords, and strong passwords. Typically, you're going to be looking at around 8 characters, a mixture of upper and lowercase numbers and symbols. For your stronger, more secure systems, you should really introduce a minimum character count of around 16 characters to really just increase security on that. All right, let's talk about email security. This is important for your end users, so you want to introduce them to this concept of phishing. There's a huge number of phishing cases that still occur annually, and it's relatively easy for bad actors to initiate a phishing campaign, and it just takes one hit really to introduce an organization to a potential breach and vulnerability. So the more users are made aware of phishing and some of the intricate ways that they go about phishing, the better your organization will be. One thing that's kind of important and doesn't necessarily relate to cybersecurity, but is still really good for organizations to be aware of, is the idea behind email storms. And this is when somebody sends an email either advertently or inadvertently to a distribution list, and everybody on, or a large population folks on that distribution list are using the reply all feature. It's something for administrators to be aware of, that these occur. It can really cripple a network. There's some examples out there of millions of emails being sent to distribution lists over within a 1 hour period, and it just takes a lot of or relatively simple mention to your users to advise them not to use that reply all feature, even if they think they're being snarky or helpful. And then one of the other things to protect security is advise folks about the hazard of blindly following hyperlinks, especially in HTML emails. Some secure systems will disable HTML emails from being from automatically loading, and that allows users some visibility on how hyperlinks are coded into the email. Just because hyperlinks say one thing in text, the anchor tag may be pointing to another website completely, and that's something for users to be made aware of. And then we want to make sure that we're talking about physical security. And this is basically, you'd be amazed at how often, as I travel around the country, I see people logging onto their emails. I sat next to an official who was, it appeared to be, to me, a senior official at the VMware organization. And I was able to, out of the corner of my eye, watch him log on to his network with his username and password visible to me. I watched him check Twitter, and he probably just didn't think about the fact that there was a computer nerd and somebody who was following the cybersecurity world. But if it had been a hacker or somebody with malicious intent, it certainly would have been very dangerous for him to have been doing that stuff in that environment. Another thing is that people often find is if they're taking home a organization's or company laptop or device, just advise them to take it with them instead of leaving it in the back seat. Especially if they're just going inside to grab a bite to eat, or they're going to the grocery store, maybe perhaps consider when your folks are leaving to just throw their laptop bag in the trunk of their car or in a spot in the car where it's not easily visible. It's just a simple deterrent to prevent thieves from taking those laptop bags. Along with that, advise folks to consider carrying a non-traditional bag that laptops are typically stored in. Laptop bags are again an easy target, and if something's stored in like a regular backpack, it might not, a thief or somebody might not immediately think that there was a high target or a high value target inside that bag. Regardless of all of that, it's really important for folks to understand that they should never leave their computer unlocked and unattended, even when they're walking away from their desk. A lot of penetration testers will focus on physical security first, right? They just need to get into a building and look for an unsecured computer, and then it's really easy for them to get network access without even having to hack. If somebody opens a door for them, or they're cloning an ID, or you'd be amazed at how many people will hold a door open for somebody who's smiling at them. So it's really important for folks to understand that threat is out there. And then last, never make sure that your users are aware of the threat of just random USB devices. There's a lot of examples you can find on the internet of folks who either find USB devices and plug them in, and they're introducing malware onto their system, or through an auto load configuration. Or there's even some examples of bad actors or researchers who have been able to successfully load malware onto standard USB devices, which folks think of as just charging capable, such as a vape pen or something like that. So it's really important for users to understand the threat that USB devices pose to the network, the organization, and even themselves. And then, yeah, if anybody has any questions, they can go ahead and email me at dan@choco-lata.com. I hope everybody enjoyed. Thanks.